Please welcome back Rachel Nichols.
Hey. Hello. Thank you. Hey, guys, if we can move from the back of the room to the front of the room to listen to our amazing speakers, that would be great. Come. It's exciting. We really do have so many interesting conversations going on today, so I appreciate all of you back there. We also have really interesting stuff going on stage, and this next panel is called The Business of LA Sports. I'm excited to introduce the LA Kings Chief Operating Officer, Kelly Cheeseman, the President of the LA Sparks, the fabulous Christine Monjer, alongside Larry Berg, who is the co-managing owner of LAFC. And leading the discussion is the CEO of Accelerate Sports, Brent Lawrence. Give them a big round.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brent Lawrence. I'm CEO of Accelerate Sports, a sports-focused investment bank in Manhattan Beach. I'm thrilled to have a phenomenal panel here today, some of our LA sports business leaders, and we'll jump right in. As we all know, LA is an ultra-competitive landscape for sports, an incredible ecosystem with every major sport represented here. And so the topic we're going to hit on first is the comparison between LA as a market and some other markets. So we will start with Christine. You came from Las Vegas. You helped launch the Las Vegas Aces. Las Vegas is very close to Los Angeles, obviously. And talk about some of the commonalities, differences, strengths, weaknesses, and some of the things you've done here that you've also done in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. So I had the privilege of launching and leading the Las Vegas Aces and was there for about 5 years. And when we started the Aces, it was 2017, and sports were just but a dream, right? It was the Golden Knights coming into town, rumors of the Raiders potentially, maybe, and then the Aces were something that was very real. So I would say there was a big appetite for sport, right? We were thirsty for it. There was almost this like desperation to make our city real by bringing sports teams. Obviously, we'd had the Aviators for years, but this felt different. And so I think there was such a willingness to participate, right? It was easy to get reporters to practice. It was easy to get reporters to media day. Everyone wanted to participate. In contrast to LA, I think there's still definitely excitement, but we are competing, right? 12 professional teams, incredible universities. You know, in basketball, you have EYBL with Nike. You've got the youth sports game. So I think from that perspective, the interest is just a little bit different because in Vegas, there were only 2, now 3, soon to be 4. But I would say everyone's really interested in women's basketball, right? So we get to ride this high of the women's sports game. But Vegas was definitely interesting, much more of a locals market for us than a tourist market, whereas when you look at a Raiders game, I think at this point the status, it's like 60-40, right? Tourist and visiting team versus home. But yeah, loved the Vegas time, but definitely loving LA.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine. Kelly, the 2 largest markets in the country, obviously, are LA and New York. And curious to hear your view of the commonalities and differences between LA and New York.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, I want to say how much I hate Vegas.
Love that.
But yeah, we've struck a nice rivalry with Vegas since they've come on board. And actually, me and some of my team, actually Aaron LaValle is in this room today, we helped launch the Vegas Golden Knights as AEG Sports. And you know, it's very different markets when you're talking about a small market like Vegas, a really hometown market, versus the big markets like New York and LA. And I think the distinction between those two is there's value. It's just pure value. There's pure media value. There's pure people value in LA and New York, where we can carve out our own niches. What's unique, I think, about LA and New York is that the residents of these cities are very passionate about their cities and what they want to represent. And if you can tap into that passion with your brand, you're going to struggle at times to get voice and share of media in the market because it's so busy, it's so cluttered, all the cliches that we hear. But if you really lean in and drive down to who your fans are and you give them something to be passionate about with an authentic brand that represents their city, in cities like New York and LA, you can really carve out your own niche. New York is, you have anything from, the tri-state area and from, if you look at it just from a hockey perspective and you look at it from the Devils in Jersey to, the Rangers to the Islanders, like there's so much density there of their fan bases, but each one has a really passionate and distinctly different fan base. And, LA is much like that. We are able to kind of lean into who we are and carve out who we are, and there's enough people to create a very strong fan base. And one of the things that people don't realize about the Kings in many ways is we're 60 years here in this town. We're the longest born and raised team here in LA, and people really don't realize that at times. So you can build your culture from the ground up and be passionate and lean into the fan base. And, at times you're not going to be on KCAL or KTLA or the LA Times may not talk about you, but you're still going to have a full stadium and you can still have success. And I think that's what's unique about these two cities.
I agree. And in the last 10, 15, 20 years, LA has more championships than New York.
That is a fact. Yes.
A proud fact of LA. Larry, let's talk about San Diego. So as you know, our firm handled the San Diego MLS expansion. I'm from San Diego, so it's a very proper moment here. And San Diego FC has actually proven to be competitive with the Galaxy and LAFC early on. But San Diego has always been LA's, stepchild, so to speak. Now the Padres are good, which is great. Talk about that competitive dynamic and how it might foster more healthy competition throughout MLS and other sports.
Yeah. So San Diego, as you know, is the newest expansion team, and they're doing really well. But if I go back to the last few years when we were discussing it at the league, it was actually pretty controversial. There was an argument from those that know a lot better than I do that it's not a great sports town. There's too many other things to do, surfing, et cetera. Doesn't have great corporate support. But one thing about our sport, soccer, that's unique, at least for San Diego in terms of the MLS, is how close they are to Mexico. So they'll be the one team that they're going to invest very heavily into the academy, and they're going to be the one team, given their catchment area, that they can actually recruit in Mexico. If you put out an authentic product, people will come, which is the hard part. They have the same president that helped bring us out of the ground in 2018. And in our sport, most sports, but certainly in our sport, rivalries are a huge part of it. That's where the passion comes from, et cetera. It's really fan versus fan almost. And we had our first game in San Diego. And by the way, it's about 30,000 seats because they're sharing the stadium with a college football team, which is not ideal. We have 22,000 seats, so it makes it a lot easier to fill it, game in and game out. But we had 1,000 fans go down there. And so they had their supporters group. We had our supporters group. We like to call it the soundtrack to the game, so they're all chanting and singing, and it really creates a great vibe. And it's one of the main reasons people come to watch to begin with. So they've done really well as a starting point. When the idea first came up, we were trying to decide if we were supportive or not because they would take. We have some great academy kids from San Diego. That wouldn't happen going forward. And it adds another team in California. We already have a lot of California teams, but now that they've done it right, the right ownership group, the right stadium solution, the right management. We brought in Carlos Vela when we started, who was a big-time Mexican national team striker, which seemed to go pretty well in this town. And they did Chucky Lozano, which has also done well. So in some ways, the same playbook. And so now that it's working, it's great to see them there. It provides a great rivalry for us. Frankly, it's less travel, not only for us, but for our fans, in terms of one of our away games. And so, we're really excited to have them now.
Yeah, they were loud at that game. They were loud at the LA Galaxy game as well. The San Diego fans are loud at the Galaxy game. So I think the natural rivalries is going to be very healthy for MLS. Because you've worked in another market, Christine, there's pressure to win in professional sports, right? And you were in Vegas. Has that pressure, do you feel it amplified here in LA?
I think I can give a one-word answer, which is yes. We're really excited about our on-court product. We have a new head coach, Lynn Roberts. Our GM, Reagan Peebley, has done incredible work to bring in a roster that's going to play really competitive basketball. It's going to be exciting for fans of the game. We have Kelsey Plum now. I've known Kel since she was in Vegas. I mean, she used to be the NCAA all-time leading scorer. Like, we are going to play fast-paced, fun basketball. The games are fun. So, yes, pressure to win. Yes, you're going to have a great time when you come to a game. If we don't win, I mean, our record last season, unfortunately, was last in the league. But we're really not dwelling on that. We're not leaning into that by any means. It's a new day. We have a new perspective, and we will win. So we're excited.
That's awesome. Kelly, how do you deal with the pressure to win in such a big market?
Well, coming off our playoff loss this week, not very well, unfortunately, sometimes. But no, I mean, it's LA, right? We have that expectation to win, and sometimes you're going to have to tear down to build up, in our sports in particular. But we like to create that expectation on ourselves and make sure that we're portraying that to our fans. You know, having a championship standard is the first thing, and that is everything that you do as an organization has to have a championship standard, and that sets the culture so that your fans see that and understand that that's the end goal. And Los Angeles expects that. When you're not winning, you are going to lose share of voice in this town. That's just a fact. But that's the fun part, right? So, you know, it is a lot of pressure, but, you know, if you have an owner that's committed, and we believe we have the best owner in sports that's committed, allows us to stay on plan, and really, like, he doesn't really meddle in what we do on a day-to-day basis. He just expects that we're communicating with him and providing an outcome to where we can win and have high expectations and drive a good result. You're going to get the opportunity to win. And as Luke always says, the goal is not just to make the playoffs, it's to win the playoffs. And to build a team and a culture around what that is very difficult. You know, we're in a situation right now with the Kings that we've lost 4 years in a row to the same team. Well, that same player on that team is currently the Michael Jordan of the game. So, you know, that's a hard thing to compete against. So you got to build a team and a culture around that can not just win that round, but win eventually. And we think we're there. So, but portraying that to the fans is hard. And you're going to have times where you're going to have setbacks, and you lick your wounds and you move on.
Mm-hmm. And Larry, with the recent MLS Cup, anything to add there?
Well, the only thing is, look, it's Los Angeles, so you're expected to win. Certainly, at least with our team, because it is Los Angeles, you can't only just win. You have to also win and play entertaining, attractive soccer. Kind of like if you think of Brazil, of the soccer world, they kind of are very entertaining. And so there's a lot of pressure. And the good news is that you're in Los Angeles, so your revenues are probably higher, your sponsorship's probably higher. You can afford to fund a bit of a higher bar, sort of trying to win 4-3 instead of 1-0. Make it more interesting. But where the debate, where the rubber really hits the road in terms of our debate is, do we go for a older, brand name, ex-European player that everyone's going to want to come out and watch, who's maybe 34, or do we go for the 27-year-old you've never heard of, but is in better shape, runs faster, and is probably better on the field? And we have some people in our organization who feel like, hey, it's Los Angeles. You got to get the brand name players. You know, Ohtani. You know, you just got to do that, which, by the way, in soccer can be really expensive. And then there's a lot of us that say, hey, as long as we win and play attractive soccer, it's all going to work out, which is kind of where we're ending up. So Los Angeles definitely is a high bar for sure, and we have very knowledgeable fans, a very diverse community. A lot of people here, even though we're, I guess, the fifth sport in the United States, in LA, for a lot of the people, we're the first sport. And so their expectations are very high, but it's a challenge that is actually a lot of fun.
That's great. Switching topics, LA, we'd be remiss. There's great professional sports, but there's also two powerhouse universities in USC and UCLA. Kelly, I know there's no college hockey here, but describe your interaction and your relationship with USC, UCLA, and any other relevant universities in town.
I mean, it's easy to say we have great relationships. I mean, our biggest partner is Keck and at USC, and they provide all of our medical standards and all of a lot of our deep research that goes into the health and performance of our players. So that's one of the great resources that we have with our universities. But for years we've built a lot of our fan base around those two universities. I mean, if you ever get on the phones and talk to old Kings fans, they'll talk to you about how they started with the student tickets at the Forum, and now they have season tickets today. So just those two, infrastructure of those things provide a lot for us. ACHA, which is, the club hockey programs and universities across the country, is really a growing program for competitive hockey. And you'll see programs like ASU that started as an ACHA program, and now they're a Division I program. And there's more of those. I think UNLV is on the cusp of that right now. I think they beat DU this year as an ACHA program. So there's a lot of that developing in college hockey, not only in men's but also in women's hockey. And we're there to support it. I think you're going to see, maybe one of these universities or two of them pop into college hockey soon, and that's exciting for us.
Yeah, that's great. Larry, there's good soccer programs here. Talk about your relationships.
So we have two main university relationships. One is our training facilities at Cal State LA. So we are on their campus, and we share some of the fields, and they're obviously a close partner as a result of that. So that's been a great win-win for both of us. But the one that you notice more day-to-day is with USC, because we share Exposition Park. So our stadium is right next to the Coliseum. So you share parking, you share a lot of things. And we actually can't have an event on the same day, number one. Number two, USC always gets first pick. So they definitely get a priority. But for example, when they have a football game and they're doing their VIP stuff for alumni, whatever, it's usually at our stadium. And they're very supportive in terms of there's a lot of folks over there that come over. We actually have a supporters group called, I think, Wings of Troy, which are some USC students. So, you can't be next door to somebody without feeling like true partners. But the biggest thing about those schools, of course, is they have great sports programs. And so you feel like when you come into the market, there's probably more, I'll call them pro teams in Los Angeles than, frankly, anywhere. I don't think New York has the same sort of college programs. And they're very formidable. So it really creates a high bar for how do you differentiate yourself? How do you have maybe a different market segment? How do you have a different fan experience? There's just an enormous number of great teams in town.
That's great. And Christine, USC and UCLA had phenomenal years this year in women's hoops. Talk about your relationships.
I mean, if we look at what the NCAA transition into the WNBA fandom has looked like over the last 3 to 5 years, it's pretty spectacular. And I think when we dive into what our market and this city, we have incredible relationships with both. I mean, last year when we had to play a couple games, or 2 years ago rather, outside of our arena, we played at the Galen Center. We actually have a closed scrimmage at UCLA this week. Whether it's coaches working together to talk about just when they need practice players, when they need additional, support staff, the players coming out to our games. I mean, I say Juju Watkins, and I'm sure everybody in this room knows who that is. And, we say that we'd hope to be able to draft her, but that means we'd have to have 2 more really terrible seasons, so we're going to have to pass. But, yeah, I mean, the relationships are incredible. What this city has as it relates to its collegiate sports, specifically the women's basketball game, is just spectacular, and we work really closely with both.
So we have this competitive landscape, and each one of you, it's interesting, we're talking about this, a very different fan base for women's basketball, men's hockey, men's soccer. And you've each been very successful in carving out a niche in this crowded space and engaging your fans. Let's start with Larry. Tell us about a magical moment, in the birth of LAFC when you're like, boom, this is going to work.
Yeah, for me, it was our first home game, 2018, and building up, we started off sort of from the inside out. We built our fan groups before we had a player. We went to soccer pubs, and we recruited them, and we offered them what we had, which was to co-create it with us. They would come to the architect's office and help architect the stadium. They would come to city council, help us get approvals. So they were always very heavily involved. Later, when we won a championship, they helped design the ring. So it's part of the soccer culture. That was just a very, very big thing. And we would do these drum and song sessions in the parking lot as the stadium was being built. And it started off with like 25 fans and then maybe 50 and et cetera. Very first home game, they're called the 3252 because that's about the number of seats they have in the north end. And they have safe standing, so there's no seats. They all stand and have drums and beers and the whole thing. And from the very first minute, they started chanting. Now, these were not unique songs. They're all over the world. Everyone steals from everybody else. But the fact that they were so coordinated with a few thousand people right from the get-go, and you can't find the words anywhere, like you try. Like, how do you even know what they're singing? So they're obviously organizing it internally. But when that happened, I had chills. I was like, oh, my God. And then a few games later, we had a Manchester United owner who happened to be there for his daughter's birthday. And he kind of pointed to the north end, and he said, it looks like you have 50 years of history, and you just started. And I said, that's L.A. That's just L.A. And we can take a little bit of credit for that, but it's mostly the fans. And there's no question that the key to the whole thing is that vibe at the stadium. In fact, we really haven't cracked the media market yet, like our ratings, et cetera. But we have cracked the live game day experience, and that's because of our fans.
Yeah, it is incredible. It's the gold standard in MLS, without a doubt. Christine, the Sparks have been around for a long time. The WNBA has been around for a long time, but I'll call it the rebirth of the WNBA, and you've been here a year. Talk about your magical moment or one that's coming that you foresee in the future.
So I have two. I was actually here in the 2023 season, but more of a consulting capacity, and our on-court performance that season just wasn't where we wanted, and it was the fourth quarter, and we were getting blown out, and I think it was actually by Vegas, which was extra difficult. And maybe 3 minutes left. We're not coming back. And those fans did not waver. It was just, let's go Sparks, over and over again. And I'm from Miami, where we are fair weather fans, and I love the heat, but we will walk out on a playoff game to like beat traffic, right? So like this was very unusual for me, and I just remember thinking to myself, man, these fans are something special. Like they love this team deep, and they want to stay, irrespective of what's happening on the court in this very moment. So I think that was like magic moment one, where I was like, like there's something different here. Magic moment number two was last year. We played against the Indiana Fever. We had played 2 games at Long Beach, moved back to the arena, and we had 19,103 fans in that building. And it was electric. The amount of newcomers into our game, into our franchise, into our building was just spectacular. That pulls through to our season ticket numbers, which are up double digits, to our partnerships. So for me, the magic moment was, if you build it, they will come, right? We put on a really compelling product. It was an incredible game. It was fun. Obviously, there are now new rivalries that are budding with new players. But that moment really for me, 19,000 people at Crypto.com Arena is rocking. And it was just, I won't forget that one.
That's great. Kelly, you talked about the 60-year history. So I don't know if there's a magic moment or not, but there probably is. And but at the end of the day, it's a cold weather sport here in sunny Southern California, and you guys have had incredible experience or success, I should say, in maintaining that niche and fan engagement. Talk about some of your secrets to success, and maybe a magical moment as well.
I think, it's like you said, it's 60 years. So there's a lot that has gone into that, right? And there's different eras. There's the purple and gold, pre-Gretzky era. Then there's the Gretzky era. Then there's the arriving at Staples Center. And then there's one in the Cups. And then there's kind of the current generation. So there's all different standards. And there's generations of fans that have been raised, that have gone through different levels of that fan base. I think with us, you have to do unexpected things to really stand out. And one of the more important things that I think we've ever done is play the game at Dodger Stadium in 2014. Selling out Dodger Stadium, playing a game outside, where people don't think you can play hockey outside in Los Angeles and think that's abnormal. That was something that was, credit to Luke, was a real passion project, realizing that we could actually do that. And that's kind of set a standard. And we like to build on those standards of continuing to do things that are a little bit outside of the box. You have to stand out. You have to do, and that makes people go, that looks cool. That's a family I want to be a part of. And that's a fan base I want to be a part of, because they're not all going to play hockey. They may have come to a hockey game for the first time. There's probably 3,000 or 4,000 people every night at Crypto.com Arena that are coming to their first hockey game. And that's a huge advantage that we have. So we like to make sure that we have the best entertainment. And usually when people are at our games, you know, whether they're coming from outside of LA or inside LA, they're going, that was incredible. Especially if you win and play an exciting brand of hockey, like Larry said. And that's something that people want to join and be a part of. And then you can just hook them for life. And that's kind of the standard that we like to set, do unexpected things.
Yeah, totally agree. I was at a Kings game earlier this year, and it was electric. Live hockey is incredible. We only have a few, about a minute left. So we'll skip to the end, which is women's sports. And Christine, you're going to have the first word and the last word. It's a hot topic throughout sports. We helped Unrivaled launch. We raised their capital, and that's been a big success in the first season. But it's just an example of the market for women's sports and demand. Talk about your feelings about the current status plus the future.
So I would say it's not a moment, it's not a movement. It is here. It is here to stay. It is a wise investment. Our season ticket numbers are up. Partnerships have doubled. Attendance is up. We sold out a courtside. I'm sharing these stats, and a lot of other teams can share that as well. The fan base wants what we have to offer, and gone are the days where you do it because it's, quote, the right thing. I mean, the right thing is always the right thing, but in this case, we have proven out that it is smart business, and I could not be more proud to be a part of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry, Kelly, Christine. Thank you, Sportico, and thank you for listening.